Welcome back to the CTLA4 Chronicles. On today's episode, we're covering family updates.
We're going to start off with my sister Maggie. With her job this past summer, she had to change insurance companies, and that just led to an absolute circus for her because she had Orencia and she had approved, everything was going swimmingly, and you just have to do your prior authorizations once a year. But when you switch insurance companies, you have to do all of that again, even if it's in the middle of the year like she experienced. And that led to a gap in her getting the medication and then being able to maintain the therapy that she was on. And because of that, it has now led her into a pretty severe flare where it's impacting her daily life. And what that looks like for her is a lot of fatigue, low-grade fevers, but then also flare up of her dermatomyositis.
What is that?
That is a skin and muscle inflammatory disorder. So derma is the skin, myositis is the muscle. Nana.
When did you learn that? This is getting ridiculous. Okay, too many words. I don't get it.
The last 5 years of trying to be a doctor.
Okay.
Medical researcher, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Nana had a very similar thing, and Uncle Dan was kind of explaining that when he was out here last November, about how, once or twice a year she would have these big flare-ups for months, and she couldn't use her hands, and she would get these nodules. And Maggie gets the same thing. It's gross. It almost looks like blisters and stuff, but they're just swollen knobs on all different parts of her fingers, and she can't articulate them. And steroids help, but right now she's up and down with the steroids because it always feels like nobody knows what to do when you have a flare.
Is her going up and down more catching up because she was off of Orencia for so long?
Yeah, it's
because these therapies take time to build up.
Yeah, it takes can take up to 3 months to feel the full effects of these immune therapies. So when you stop them and once they're out of your system, it's like starting over all over again. And then in the meantime, what do you do to control the fires? Everybody feels cognizant at it. And so she's just riding the wave like this right now, and it's rough. And she'll get through it. It's just, she's got a full-time job. She's a mom. She's a wife. It's a lot all while trying to stay alive.
And for anybody wondering, before we keep going with the segment, the Orencia is
incredibly expensive, number one. Two, it's an immune therapy, and it's the protein that we're missing. So it's the CTLA4 protein that was actually used for cancer treatment originally and for rheumatoid arthritis. And so right now it's not approved for CTLA4 haploinsufficiency because there's not enough people. So it's called off-label usage, and it makes things even harder with insurance companies because it's not a FDA-approved reason. The doctors have to show just basically medical research or the fact that it's worked in other people who have this.
Which is wild because not only you, but both of our daughters have been on it the whole time they've been on it. You don't need it now.
Right.
Post-transplant, you're good. It's not part of your regimen. But the girls are still taking it, Juliana weekly, Catalina monthly because of their dosages, and we're noticing massive difference.
Oh, yeah.
Without this medication and everything else that we've done so far, normal life would not have been an option. This has been phenomenal. So to know how good it is, the impact that has been in our lives, it's sad to see your sister go through the struggle again with the insurance companies. And we've dealt with this ourselves in the past. She's just currently going through it. So
yeah, and it's one of those things where we have this podcast and we're trying to help others on their medical odysseys. And stuff like this, we have no control over. We had to get literal Congress involved to get Orencia approved the first time for Catalina.
You definitely may or may not have been threatened insurance companies with Congress in their offices, more than once, in different offices around the country to make sure we got the help that we needed for our family. So we understand the struggle. We have the roadmap. We're willing to help anybody, not just CTLA4 patrons. But that's what we're looking to do here is reach out and make the connection with other families and other individuals that are having these problems.
Yeah, almost like having a handbook or something, being hey, you're in, on page, X, and we've lived this. Here's, some maybe helpful insight for you. And it's just, then you run into insurance companies where it comes across their desk and they don't care what the reason is, just slap a denial on it right off the rip, and then it's just saga.
Yeah. So along with everything going on with your sister, unfortunately, our nieces, her daughters, are also having issues. Both girls were negative for CTLA4. So, like, right there, that's a huge win. We're really excited
Yeah.
for them not to be in the same boat as us, but they didn't come out clean either. So both girls had at least one variant of unknown significance, and unfortunately, that's how we start. Variants of unknown significance. And what that means is that there just isn't enough human data or people with the same kind of genetic mutation to know what it has effects. So it's one of those things where it gets tossed in the trash can unless you know what you're doing and who to fight with, and continue pushing and pushing and starting your own odysseys. And that's what we're going through. And that words come up a lot in this podcast because we may have done a previous episode on medical odysseys.
And like the other thing with these variants of unknown significance, we had one lab not report the CTLA4 variant because it was one that had never been seen in the human population before. So like the first time we did genetics for Cat and Cat, they didn't report it at all. And when we went to the Mayo Clinic is when we did genetics again and found it. And then I started questioning Mayo. I was like, why was this left out? Because it led to like 8 months or something where we didn't have an answer because like it wasn't even on our radar. And then, you know, they went back and looked at the actual genetic report and it was in there. It just, somebody made the decision not to report it. And that's where it gets kind of tricky with this stuff. And doctors are like, oh, well, if there's not a lot of information, then like really we shouldn't be investigating it. And, you know, it's a lot of testing that's kind of unnecessary. But yes, yep, that was also on our last one. So when we see stuff like this, it's like a red flag immediately for us. And then as we read through the genetic report, there's a AI model or algorithm where they will put in a, you know, regular gene to see what the effects would be, or, you know, all the information for a normal person. And then they input, you know, the mutations, because everybody has different mutations, but these ones that could be potentially, you know, pathogenic. And it spits out an answer, whether it's, you know, does impact, doesn't impact, might impact a little bit. And unfortunately, both the girls, the genetic mutations did have an impact. It said that it was like degradation, some other, you know, not great verbiage. And unfortunately, because there's not a lot, or there isn't any human data on those specifically, you can't compare it to anything. And when I was talking to one of the geneticists about this, about our mutation, they said that because it's not with real cells and not with real people, obviously all of that changes if those mutations are truly pathogenic or if they could be truly pathogenic, which is where some of the hesitation in providers comes in. But, you know, they have issues with their immune system. They're actually currently sick right now, and like my sister's older daughter has a lot of issues with her skin and rashes and hives and blisters and stuff, and like it's very similar to some of the stuff that we've dealt with CTLA4.
Yeah, because through our testing, and what we found that was like parallels with the girl, the nieces here, is that they have their B cells are not working properly. So whether it is a lack of B cells or a functions problem, we haven't determined that because we're just starting this journey with them, unfortunately. But what we do know from having problems in the same area, whether it's CTLA4 or not, which in this case for them it's not, the B cell therapy that we go to monthly for our daughters and we were doing for you every 2 weeks prior to your transplant made a significant change in our kids' lives.
Absolutely.
Because our daughters, we weren't even expecting to go to school. Daycare was hard enough for them.
We almost killed Catalina on them how many times?
Yeah, social settings were hard for them. We couldn't take them at the birthday parties, couldn't take them at the public parks, anything. Just all this stuff was constantly getting our kids sick. We got to a point where we were scared to take them around family members or friends because our daughters were constantly suffering. Next thing we knew, we'd be in the hospital for a week or longer at times, and just made this whole journey very different until we discovered what the problem was. So these items of unknown significance do matter. If you get something like that in your genetic report, you shouldn't just look it over, question the norm, keep asking, because the best thing to come out of it is to get a better result.
The help you need. Yeah.
Worst case scenario, it is of unknown significance, and you have to keep blazing your own trail to figure out where you're going.
Right. And like these variants, from what they can see, even though there's not enough, human data, is that it's linked to combined immune deficiencies, which could be, your B cells or your T cells or both of them. Blood cancers like lymphoma, leukemia, especially childhood blood cancers, which was like another big red flag. Like, hey, these kids have a lot going on. They should at least be monitored for these issues because it can just happen.
And we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg as far as these girls are and all the ailments they've dealt with over the years. While some of them have not been as severe as ours, I feel like they're consistently more sick than our children, especially after we got them.
Absolutely. And then it also raises the question with, Maggie being on these immune therapies and having an immune deficiency. Like, her immune panel overall was actually pretty good, but she deals with like severe GI infections all the time. And like with CTLA4, your GI tract is generally more susceptible to that than other people. But like with her kids getting viruses all the time and stuff, like she's at a higher risk than, a normal person would be to also getting sick. And as an adult, some of these things are worse than they are for kids. So like I think about that too when she texts me and tells me her kids are sick and stuff. I'm like, oh man, I hope that she doesn't catch it. And like on top of the combined immune deficiency and the blood cancers and stuff, there's also auto-inflammatory disorders and autoimmune disorders that are linked to these two variants. So like with everything they have going on, it seems like they have enough problems to warrant blood work. I'm not saying that you got to do a bone marrow biopsy. That's crazy, but like do some labs.
Yeah, a lot more to discover.
Yeah.
Amongst your sister and her nieces, what's going on with them? We also have your cousin and some other family members, their daughters, and she even has grandchildren.
Yep.
What's going on that side of the family on the West Coast? So go ahead. What's going on with them?
Yeah, so we had done an update before I did whatever on Renee and kind of her medical odyssey and the fact that like she's always had issues, but it's been just kind of brushed off by doctors, and even like up until recently, and she's in her early 40s, and she just had a massive flare where they found a brain lesion, and they thought she had a stroke, and she lost like the use of the left side of her body, and so her mom actually reached out and was like, hey, can you talk to Renee? She's got some stuff going on. Her and I connected. Then I got in touch with her doctor's office and provided them with some of the information they were asking for to be able to get her into an appointment with genetics to get her like properly tested.
Yep.
And like without having a young child to kind of segue you in with these people, I've talked about it before, it's almost impossible. And like between her and I went through quite a bit to get her in, and now she finally has an appointment. It's in April, so it's still a little ways away, but some people wait 9 months to a year to get in with genetics.
It's so bizarre, but it's so hard to get into genetics.
Yeah.
And the running theory for so many is that, you made it to adulthood, you're fine. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of focus on pediatric genetics, hematology, and so on. So some of these doctors who've experienced our own journey have been absolutely phenomenal. And when we turn cold to try and get a doctor to help me with our family members, but we found it very difficult to get appointments for have successful appointment that you want to make your health better. We've been very fortunate with the staff that we have and other children and so tied into the line in our lives. They also bridged this gap for us with certain doctors to make your care better. And now we're reaching out and helping with sister's care and so on, and we're hoping for the same success for your cousin.
I know, and I'm really hoping, because she's got, flares and stuff too, and right now I believe she's in a lull from the last time we spoke, so she's feeling better and she's functioning normally. But I mean, she's having a hard time even getting medication for her migraines that are like well documented, that she's got like auras with, and she like can't function. And her regular doctor that she's reaching out to that knows this history is giving her a hard time about giving her migraine medication, which is just, after everything she's been through, the fact that she has a brain lesion, she had stroke-like symptoms, she's got some of the more severe neurological manifestations of CTLA4, and they still aren't like properly helping her, is so frustrating to hear, especially because like I can't really do much, but I want to.
Oh man.
And her daughter is also, in these conversations I've learned that her daughter is also dealing with very similar symptoms to her. And just gets brushed off as well as just having, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, which, fibromyalgia is real. and there's a lot of people that get diagnosed with it, but it's supposed to be diagnosis of exclusion. So if you cannot find anything else that could be causing these problems, then you can say that it's a nerve disorder, and then you get put on medication for that. And like, I guess at the end of the day, if the result is you get put on medication, that helps, and it does help fine. But it's like they stopped investigating because they're like, oh, fibromyalgia, that's what it is. Here's some medication for your nerve pain. And it's like, that's not all it is. I've learned that she also has morphia, and she is the only other person in my family that has an array of autoimmune diseases that has morphia. And so, like, that was very interesting, because if she is positive, then that'll absolutely be lumped in with, like, the Hashimoto's and the type 1 diabetes, and some of the more, like, common manifestations of autoimmune diseases for celiac, at least with our area.
Yeah. And then hopefully through figuring everything out with her, we can either include or exclude her children, similar to your sister and nieces. Like, either way, get the girls into genetic testing so we get to that. What's going on with them? They can get the help they need. Because something's going on. Unfortunately, the links were never made, and that's due to this disease still being not discovered until 11 years ago, right? It was 2014.
Yep.
So 2014 is the first time it's had been recorded, people, and we started documenting it. So, just trying to work with everybody in the family with the help that we need, and not only them, try to others.
Yeah, and like the saga continues, and so it will. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's a lot of updates.
Yeah, it's a lot going on here. So, and that's the point of the channel, is to go through all this stuff and really just talk it with you guys and put the message out there, and hopefully we get some feedback, whether you liked it, loved it, or have your own stories that you have questions about and want to conversate, whether you want to put something on the show or you want to talk to us and ask questions about our journey and how we got the help that we did. And if that helps you, that's what we want to do. That's a job.
Yeah.
Every single person in the family that we help is a good goal. Whether it's just one a month, one a year, one a lifetime, is better than that.
Absolutely.
And so far, we've helped more than that. So
yeah, and we love all of the feedback. We've definitely had a lot of people sharing like their struggles, and like especially medical gaslighting seems to be one of the biggest topics that people want to talk about. But like, we really do love all the feedback and like the interactions with the rare disease community, because like there is not enough of it. So we appreciate all of you guys.
And we get to this room soon. Hopefully get Justin in person.
I know, I'm off my Tacro, so like one step closer to being almost a normal person.
All right, I think that's all we have for today's episode. Thank you very much for joining us in the CTLA 4 Chronicles this week.